Okay, so in this quick overview video, I want to run through what the idea here is for this series of ongoing videos. And basically this idea came to me because I wanted to rebuild an application that's kind of my development testing application. And it's available right now. It's been available for quite a while. It's open source and it's called Code Notes for iOS. And the idea was that it was a notes application for me, really, to let me make notes as a developer whilst I was working on various topics and learning different things, and I could put code in there and everything else. So it seemed like a good idea to make this iPad application to do exactly what I wanted. Now, of course, the version 1, it's pretty, I don't want to say basic, it's for limited of features. It's an ongoing project, and this was part of the plan, was it was always going to grow and develop when I have time to work on it. What ended up happening was, over time as I was working on it, the ideas and the features that I had would slowly be introduced. And then I realized, of course, as with everything, you start to think about version 2 and the next things you want to put in there. And I think what we'll do before we go any further, I'm going to run in a simulator here, version 1, just so you can see it. And this source code is available on GitHub. You can download and run it yourself. And when you first run the application, what you get here is this interface, and you can go in. Before we go any further, let's go into the settings. I'll just show you there. So there were some settings. I have my own dark theme custom support because this was built, I want to say it was around iOS 10 was when I started working on this. So you could basically turn on dark settings there, go back, and then you'd have this nice dark interface, and you can go back in the settings, just go back to the light one here and save settings again. And all the codes there, you can look at these things. All right. So, in the settings as well, you could tell it if you paste into the app, as I'll show you in a second, you could replace the existing note content or append it. That was another setting. And also a confirmation dialog when you're deleting a note. So we also have this reset button here for removing all the notes. And because it's a developer application, I had this idea that you could manage languages. So I had this default set of list of languages here, and you could go in and add your own. So I'd say like my new language, right? Some new programming language, and I'd add it in there. And you can see it would appear in the list here. Oh, I could select one. Let's say let's do Java here, and I can just remove it from the list. And what this list is, let's go in and create a new note, and this will make sense. So when I create a new note, I'd give it a title, and I'd say, my new programming note. And when I go to the language, it would populate here. So you can see there's my new language right there, right? So the idea was that I'd select the language that I was talking about in this note, and then I'd go back in here and I could type in all the details, whatever they may be for my note. So, it may be something like, let's just say self-init, which is not accurate at all, but that'll do for the sake of this here, and I'd save it. Now, some of the other things you'll notice on the list here, it would store, like here it would store the language, so Objective-C, and then you could also do something else that I introduced, was this idea of having, basically using a third-party Markdown library, so you could use Markdown language in here as well. You also had the ability to copy the notes content here to the clipboard and use it anywhere else on the iPad, or of course on the Mac or anywhere else, thanks to the the cross-platform clipboard. So you can also delete the note, and like I say, you can go back in and edit the note again and add some things there. So Markdown, in case you don't know, would be something like my title here, and then you would just close it out. In this particular version, I don't have the Markdown fully set up. This was in a later commit that's not in this particular build that I'm showing you here, but you get the idea. So the other thing being, like I say, there was in the settings was this confirmation here. So if I go back and I'm just going to say the settings and I load up the note, I can hit delete, it'll automatically delete it, or it would pop up and say, hey, you sure you want to delete this, right? That's what that was. So, lots of features of the platform were put in here for me to learn the concepts of iOS as I started building the application. So all of that is to lead us to this point and where we are today. And as I was starting to think about version 2 and all the new features that I wanted to put in here, I realized that, okay, SwiftUI has now come along, and Combine and Catalyst and everything else. And I wanted to do a Mac OS version. So I thought to myself, okay, well, the timing's appropriate. These new tools have come out now, finally, in their final releases. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild this entire application, make it cross-platform, share the notes with iCloud or some, technology that I haven't determined yet, but probably going to be iCloud, something like that, CloudKit, and then use SwiftUI to build out the programming, the UIs, and improve the programming support that I've got in there, and lots of other features. And then I thought to myself, this is the perfect opportunity to create some sort of tutorials / live coding, I guess is the way I'm going to call it. Some of it will be structured, and then some of it I think I'll just record live coding sessions so that you can see my mistakes as well, because I normally edit my videos and try to make them flawless, right? And in reality, we all know as developers that's not the way it works in the real world. So I thought if I do some of them as kind of a live coding session and don't edit it too much or not at all, and you get to see my mistakes and you get to see how I learn from my mistakes, and that this will probably be beneficial to you in some way as well, especially if you encounter some of those errors. So I thought to myself, well, it's uncomfortable to sit there and have people, discover like, oh, he doesn't know this thing and he's got to look it up like everybody else. But then I thought, no, that's the reality of it, right? That's the world we live in as developers. There is no shame in admitting that we have to Google things just like everybody else. So I thought it's important to show that this is something we all go through, so that there's none of that imposter syndrome or anything else, and to show that apps like I've built here and everything else, you can all do it too, right? And I'm going to show you all the, the behind the scenes stuff in these videos, so that you get to experience the whole thing with me, and we'll get to learn and grow together. And hopefully as well, you can provide feedback. There'll be mechanisms for you to provide feedback with me. And if I do some of them as live streaming, which I'm still working out the details on that, there would be a chat room for you to get involved as well. But primarily there'll be these videos for you to work on and watch with me as I do it. And then you can also provide comments and everything else, and you can ask questions or suggestions on how to improve code and things like that. So that's the idea behind all of this. And I'm still working through it, and it's kind of funny because I can't really prepare too much beforehand, because I want you to experience the whole thing. And because of that, I thought to myself, let's put it on Patreon. It's going to take me a lot of time to do this. So I'm actually going to put it behind a paid tier level, I think, rather than putting it all out there for free, because it's going to consume a lot of my time. And I am a professional developer, and I do manage engineers professionally during the day. So, when I devote time to these things that I love to do for you all, I have to plan it out, and it does take a big chunk of my time away, my personal time. And so I thought, it feels appropriate that there should be something to help me keep working on this. And also, by being a tiered level, it gives you the opportunity to help fund this channel and everything else I do. And that always comes along because, as we all know, there are expenses. There's hosting, there's software tools, hardware tools, and everything else. And in order for me to do all this, I'm going to be completely honest, it comes out of my own pocket, and I need to find a way to try and make it manageable. And I think that a small tiered level is the way to go. And so I hope you understand and appreciate that. This video is gonna go out. Obviously, it's kind of a teaser video and to explain the project. So this one, just goes out for free. There's bound to be some other ones that I'm gonna put out, certain episodes, so that to generate interest. I'm gonna be completely transparent and honest with you on this. So that's the idea here. Let me know what you think. I think it's a good idea, and I think that seeing someone build a real tool that they use for themselves and have a vested interest in, rather than just churning out tutorials on little bits here and there all the time, I feel that gives you, a better feel for being an iOS or an Apple platform developer, I should say. So I really would love some feedback on this, please. This will be on patreon.com/PWCOM. I'll also be putting this one up on my website, peterwitham.com. And I'll probably put it on my Swift dedicated website as well, which is compileswift.com, because I feel that it's appropriate to put it in all those locations as well. Not only to generate interest, but because this material is appropriate for those sites. So thanks for hanging in there with this and this explanation. If you have suggestions on something you'd like to see or a way to do this, please leave me comments. I'd love to hear about it. This is a new thing for me, doing this approach, and I think it's going to work, and it'll probably change over time, and it certainly needs your help to make this work, because ultimately, not only am I building this tool for me, but all of this content is for all of you, be it a budding developer or otherwise, to show how you go about doing these things. So I think we'll wrap it up there, and I'll just say thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Look forward to the feedback.